Hello, and welcome to a dotBuiltEnvironment webcast. The idea here is for us to share presentations that we're given at conferences because we believe that ideas should be shared with as many people as possible. This is the first episode. Feedback is always welcome. Follow us on Twitter at dotBuiltE, and let's go. This particular episode is a presentation that I gave. My name is Neil Thompson. I'll give an introduction on the introduction slide of the presentation. The presentation is from a Digitizing Construction conference that was hosted by the Institute of Engineering and Technology. They asked me to present about the blockchain. So I thought, is there a future for blockchain in infrastructure? And I wanted to explore that with the delegates. Hello, my name is Neil Thompson. I am CEO of dotBuiltEnvironment and a co-founder. I do represent a handful of organizations, but dotBuiltEnvironment is the one that I'm representing today. Contact details are at the top at Neil_BIM for my own personal Twitter and at dotBuiltE for the dotBuiltEnvironment Twitter. And please get in touch. With any technology, we should always think about what are the problems that we're looking to solve. I've split our problems into 4. Problem number 1 is market structure. The market structure that we've got here is hierarchical with central nodes, so there's a central power sending and receiving information. There's 2 ways of looking at this. There's a hierarchical triangle, which may resonate with your personal views of organizations or big organizations, as they sometimes are structured in this way, traditionally. And the other way of viewing this is a network diagram. So this is the diagram on the left. There's lots of smaller nodes that feed into one big one. These are representative of sort of large monopoly type organizations. With monopolies, there are economic issues. We're not going to go through those issues technically, but monopolies are bad. Centralized control of information is not a very good thing. Here we have a decentralized control model, which is a diffusion of that centralized control, but not fully. So there's sort of a hub and spoke type structure. These have are more aligned with how sort of large consultancies are structured. So there's on the right here a matrix diagram. You might have markets and practices that intersect to connect the nodes, and then there's a network diagram there with larger nodes coordinating the smaller ones. And these could be local geographies, for example. So from thinking about project management and how we deal with projects, we tend to bounce between the 2 systems. We go through and started with centralized control systems, and then as information technology has advanced, we've moved to centralized systems. But in terms of governance, you'll find that we tend to bounce between the 2. Now, bouncing between 2 structures suggests to me that there's a problem, and that there must be a third way to deal with market coordination and sharing of information. Problem 1, market structure. Market structure is a hierarchy of information transactions / monetary transactions. It could be both. Problem number 2 is a thing called information asymmetry. Information asymmetry is what makes poker fun. If we knew what the cards were of the different players, there would be no point in playing. The problem is information asymmetry doesn't make buying second-hand cars or bidding for potential work fun. That unpredictability causes problems. It means that we can't foresee the future very well, or we can't assess the things that we need to do. Now, compounding that issue is working in silos. We're working in segregated parts of a delivery process, so design is disconnected from production traditionally. This causes transaction costs between the facets of those parts of the delivery, and as we know, working in silos is not collaborative. So if you think of the information asymmetries are people keeping information within their silos and only handing over the things that they need. So there are individuals with privileged information in that supply chain. Problem number 2, asymmetric information. Number 3, cash flow, money flowing through the system. And technically speaking, we're talking about a thing called trade credit. So in essence, the seller is making a short-term loan to the purchaser. So an example situation is a tier 1 contractor could withhold payment to its supply chain in order to run its operations. Having that gap means it can generate cash flow. It might generate cash flow for them, but then it causes cash flow to dry up in the rest of the supply chain. This is why sometimes you find suppliers can go bust halfway through a project, is because payments are being withheld. And on top of that, it's also fair payment on time for the appropriate quality of work. So it works the other way around. Subcontractors can hold projects to ransom sometimes because they might be very niche and specialist and the only people that can do the job. So fair payment terms work both ways. And the last one, number 4, are incentives to collaborate. Sharing information is an interesting dynamic. It costs money to generate it and it costs nothing to copy and paste it. So we're asking people to be quite altruistic in generating information for it to benefit someone else. This is a problem. It's also due to our short-sightedness in design. The scope of infrastructure and the built environment, it goes far beyond design and delivery of that design. It goes into its operation, the organizations that use these assets, and then beyond that is social outcomes and customers and users. In being short-sighted means that we're not leveraging the benefits, or we're not leveraging the full scope of what can be achieved through broadening the scope of the design and how information can be shared. With no incentive to collaborate means that we don't have this broader view and there's no commercial incentive to do so at this moment in time. Why blockchain? Interesting question. I suppose the first thing to ask is, what is it? It's a distributed ledger technology. So what does that mean? A distributed ledger is, think about your bank account and the list of transactions. Those lists of transactions are in a centralized system. The centralized system will be your bank. The big black blob will be your bank that holds in the information. Now, what you could do with these lists of transactions is distribute that information across a peer-to-peer network. So instead of there being a centralized database of your transactions, there is a distributed set of databases with those transactions on. So we've got a distributed set of databases. Now, what can we do with that? Well, if we made them public and everyone can see it, that would give us a transparent system and a proof of work and consensus mechanism. That means that we could probably contract off it, or maybe not contract, but at least transfer assets or keep a track of where things are and where they've been. And if we add on top of that cryptography, this is an Enigma machine, we can transfer assets, things, transfer currencies securely. So if we have a distributed set of information, when we make it public and we add security to that, we could have a currency, a purely digital currency. Now, that might sound like blue sky thinking, but this is what Bitcoin is. Bitcoin at this time was worth $20 billion. So this is real. It's not massive, but it's real. There's real value in something that is electronic, which you can argue is virtual. It's not even in reality. And you could go onto blockchain.info to track the value and the amount of Bitcoins out there. Now, I really want to stress on this point that we've created a digital currency that was worth $400 and something, and at this time is up to $1,200. So we've created value of something that didn't have value before. It was just a concept. So let's keep that in mind when we're thinking about digital information and its relative value. We can generate value from these things. There is one more thing. There is generations of blockchain. So blockchain 1.0 is the currency element, is the public ledger part that keeps an eye on assets and who's currently got ownership of them. The next is blockchain 2.0. This is where smart contracting comes in. So on top of this ledger, we can have proofs of work, agreements and rules for if this happens, then that. And then the last one is blockchain 3.0. And these are decentralized applications. There could be voting systems, there could be patient record management systems, and decentralized applications are an answer to the current monopolies that are building in the internet space. So if you think of the Facebook, the Google, the Twitters, etc. Decentralized applications can disrupt those because at this moment in time there are monopolies building, there are centralized models building, and using a distributed system means we can distribute the power of those applications. So to contextualize these things, I want to present two possible solutions. These are merely thought experiments, these are not actual things, but they are a description of things that we can do and food for you to think about. So possible solution number one is StructCoin. StructCoin mimics Bitcoin. It's fairly straightforward. But what I'm asking you to think about here is, what if we got, and this is grossly oversimplifying, a spreadsheet of asset information and made every line on that spreadsheet worth £1. The client makes it worth £1 and then sends it out to the industry and says, I will buy back each line of this spreadsheet at £2 when it's complete. What would that do for the incentive to collaborate? What would that do for the market structure, and what would that do to our silos? It's an interesting thought because we've created value off a digital currency. It's a concept. People now pay and do things for it. They trade off it. We could do the same with construction information because, and if we go back to our incentive to collaborate diagram where we got from design through to social outcomes, effective delivery of the built environment does have ultimate value, and that's where most of the value is. If we can connect those together, I believe that we could commoditize construction information and completely transform how we collaborate and share information, and hopefully disrupt the status quo as well. Possible solution number 2 is something called Trader Transfer Trust. It's a payment system. Now, for the keen eye of people that know what blockchain is already, they might say, we don't need to have a blockchain solution to a payment system because M-Pesa here is not a blockchain solution. Now, M-Pesa is a mobile banking system that is implemented in Africa. Now, you think in Africa, their first experience of actual banking is through their mobile, and how disruptive that is in terms of, they've not had any baggage of existing building infrastructure for banking. This is their first one, and they're getting the benefits of transparency of payment. The payment of a farmer and getting a fair price for his produce is slightly different to somebody coming and delivering work. Now, the reason why I want to use a blockchain solution in here is twofold. One is a distributed application or a decentralized application, so there isn't a centralized control for those payments. They're transparent and the money can be traced, so we're going from the taxpayer's pocket, for example, all the way through to the traders and the people that deliver plant material. It could be the manufacturers of products, etc. And sort of closing the circle actually back to taxpayers' pockets again. They're going to be they should be delivering value, and we should be able to generate realistic models of how that money flows. We should be able to lay out every single pound coin that's spent on a project, be able to point at it and say, where is that pound? Where has it come from? Where's it going? Where has it gone? And we should be able to answer that question immediately. At this moment in time, it's completely impossible and opaque. Now, the other part of this trader transfer trust is also part of the products that deliver. So it's not just the proof of work and them being paid, but it's also the custody of the supply chain that they have. One of the problems in construction is that we need transparency over the supply chain. Lots of counterfeit goods. When I say counterfeit, products that say they're one thing but they're another. Another thing is about tracking the raw materials of those materials. If we're going to be able to support a circular economy and circular business service models, we should and must be able to track the information as a system, because materials won't just be dug out of the ground and stuck into landfill. They can have intermediary uses throughout their life, being refurbished, remanufactured, recycled, and then eventually energy is extracted from them or put into landfill. So, 2 possible solutions. 1, a commodification of construction information and what that does to incentivize collaboration and our market structure. And the second one is about our market structure again, but it's dealing with trade credit and the cash flow for the system and having clarity over the proof of work, the quality of work, and the quality of the products and their guarantees. Very light explanations of those. Very happy to go through it in more detail if you want to get in touch at neilbim in Twitter and at dotBuiltEnvironment for the full organisation. And this has been our first webcast, so thanks for watching, and hopefully we can share some more with you. Take care and goodbye.